Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. And we have another dope guest on the podcast today. Really excited for this one. We're going to be diving into a business model that we have not spoken about on this podcast and probably you haven't heard too much about. So stay tuned for that. We're going to introduce him in a second. But before we do, I want to ask y'all a question. Have you ever seen an ATM machine at the barbershop, maybe a gas station? And have you ever wondered who owns it, who manages it, who operates it? Or maybe that's something that you haven't even thought about, right? And look, we want to actually bring on somebody on this podcast that is actively placing ATMs around currently in the Dallas area, and they help other business owners place them around the United States. And he's built a whole business model around this, right? So he is an ATM business owner. He went from working at an oil rig construction to the CEO of ATM Together, our Latino entrepreneur. Welcome to the podcast, Juan, Jeronimo. How you doing today, bro?
What's up, brother? I'm doing good. I appreciate you for, first and foremost, bringing me on to, your community and, sharing a little bit about my experience with the ATM business. So, what's up, everybody? My name is Juan Geronimo. I'm 26 years old. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas. And just like you said, man, I started in the oil fields of West Texas. Just a 9 to 5 in general, right? I mean, I could go all the way back to high school. Excuse me.
Where's your take me all the way back, bro?
Yeah.
Where's your family from?
So my dad, he's from Michoacan, and my mom's from San Luis, Matehuala.
Okay.
So both Mexican parents, right? They migrated over here to the U.S., of course, for better life, right? And I was, I was born in 1998.
Okay.
And since then, I mean, experiencing the hustle that both my parents were trying to put into to be able to provide for me and my, my siblings. I got, two brothers, one sister. And, just seeing the hard work that they put into just taking care of us and providing, right? Just putting the food on the table. It's definitely been like a lesson that I've learned, and just the experience in general to be able to do something bigger so that my kids don't have to, in a sense, do or have to go through what I did. Because I mean, like you said, I could go all the way back. We were the type of kids that didn't get Christmas presents. I mean, we had for dessert, we would get the pan bibo. I don't know if you've ever done this.
Yeah.
We would get the pan bibo, put like syrup on it, and that would be like a sweet treat that we would get. So I mean, it was definitely an experience. It was definitely like growing in the trenches, like they say. And it's definitely a beauty and an experience that taught me to become who I am today and strive for better for my family and my girls. I have two girls. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-month-old, 6-month-old actually. She just turned 6 months. And I want to be able to not make them go through that same situation of, freaking not getting Christmas presents, not having nice vacations, not having nice clothes and things like that. So definitely been an experience, but that's kind of what got my mindset onto the entrepreneurship and ultimately how I ended up here, being an entrepreneur.
That's amazing, man. I love it. Going, like you said, it was a beautiful thing going through those struggles because it makes you appreciate the little things in life,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like maybe instead of, putting syrup on the dessert, now y'all can go to have some ice cream with the whole family. You feel me? So, dope. So talk to me about, did you go to college or you just went from high school to kind of construction in the oil rig? What was the path there?
Yeah. So, from middle school to high school, I was already picking up that aspiring entrepreneurship kind of mindset.
Okay.
And, I was the type of kid that, like in middle school, for example, I would run across the street. There was a Family Dollar. I would buy like, candies and things like that. I'd go back to school and sell them. And that's kind of how I started to pick up that entrepreneurship mindset. So then, right when I got to high school, did the same thing a little bit. I started to put in like hard work in school so I could get early release so that I can go out and work. And I started working at a car wash straight out of high school. And working at a car wash definitely taught me a lot about just the auto detailing business, or just the auto detailing world in general. That I was like, at that point, I was confused. I was like, should I go to school, college, and do what my parents told me to do, right? Or be an entrepreneur and, you know, create my own business. And I already knew that it was either one of them. I was always very ambitious, and I'll definitely answer your question here in just a second. But I was very ambitious, and at the time, I had this was back when I was in high school. So fast forward to high school, I got like a 2015 Camaro SS, the best, you know, convertible.
While you were in high school?
Yeah, while I was in high school. And of course, it was thanks to my parents, right? At the time, I was already working at a car wash. So I was making decent money. The tips were like crazy. I was making like, on Saturdays, I was making like $120 in tips alone. That's not including what I was getting paid. So, you know, with the help of my parents, I was able to get that, and that taught me a lot about finances. Although I made not so much of a smart choice by getting that car, but at the time I wanted to look cool, I wanted to be cool, so I had I wanted to have the best car.
Yeah, you got to go through some experience to learn.
Exactly.
Okay, like this wasn't the best thing, so next time I do get the money, we're gonna do something else with it.
Yeah. So then whenever I transitioned from high school and graduated and went off to college, I had that 2015 Camaro note every single month, $1,000, a little bit over $1,000 for the car note and insurance at the age of 18, 19, right? So, and you know, my parents specifically told me, if you want to take this car out, you got to make sure you put in the work and you get that car paid for, or else, you know, you're gonna have to figure something out. We're gonna have to get rid of it. Like they believed in me, but they were also like strict. Like, we're not gonna help you with these things. That's why you got to be smart with your money.
Right.
So, transition to college. I went to college for about a semester. I started to realize, like, not only college was very difficult, I was going for architecture. So I wanted to be an architect since I was a kid. I was very good in math and art. So a lot of people were like, that's like the perfect combination to be an architect. So then I just rolled with it. I went to UTA for a architecture degree, and it didn't work out for me. It was very hard. I mean, I would go to class, and you know, although I was pretty smart in high school and in middle school, did have good grades. Once I got to college and I got to experience a little bit of the adulthood of having to pay for, you know, having to pay your liabilities, your things like that, your car note, phones, all that good stuff. That's when I started to kind of take a toll on me, because now I had to figure out whether I'm gonna put in time to study in college and, you know, make it and continue to strive to be better, or continue to work so that I can continue to pay off the things that I got when I was younger. So one thing that changed my mind completely in college, and how I kind of just went from dropping out of college, because I did drop out, was my college professor. One of my college professors actually told me, like, look at this room. It was like a big old auditorium. They were like, look at this room. There's a couple hundred of you guys in here right now. Only 1% of all of you guys will make it to be an actual architect and a successful architect. Wow. She told us just like that. So whenever she said that, a lot of us were like, what the heck? Like, you're really telling us that while we're trying to become this?
Trying to become, right.
So then whenever she said that really got me thinking, like, dang, do I really want to put in 6 years of university, try to go for this architecture degree, and potentially not even be able to get a job, not have a company to hire me and things like that? So that's whenever I really like thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna take care of my liabilities, my Camaro, because I mean, I'm telling you, like, I would go to college in the morning, I would get out, go to work, get out of work, go back to college. And I'm in Dallas, and my college was in Arlington, so it's like about a 35 to an hour drive depending on traffic. So my classes were pretty crazy, where I had morning classes and then I had night classes. So I would have to go from school back to Dallas to work, then leave work, go back to Arlington, and go back to school at night. And then, you know, so at the time I had a 2015 Camaro SS V8 6.2. So I would fill up my tank, and by the time I get home after one day, I had half a tank on. So and at the time, filling up my car was for like it would cost like $45. So I mean, the expenses were like crazy, right? So that's when I was like, you know what? Let me take some time off of school. I started doing pretty bad in college just because my mind wasn't all the way there for school. So then I I came back home and I started working in construction.
Mm-hmm.
My godfather is actually how can I say, like he's what's that word I'm looking
like
for?
a supervisor or something?
He's higher than a supervisor.
Okay.
So he's what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, he like a manager or he owner?
A superintendent.
Superintendent. Okay.
So he's a superintendent for a concrete company.
Got you.
That would pour concrete and all this thing for the cities and everything. So he got me in. So I started working in concrete, and I mean out here in Texas with this hot sun, it was hard, man. It was hard.
Work.
And me being young, like probably 20 years old at the time, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Right. So then this is when one of my friends got me the opportunity to go out to the oil fields and make better money out there. The only downside about that was the fact that it was a 7-hour drive.
So you're going out the way, Texas. You're away from the family.
Exactly.
Okay. So you weren't really feeling that.
So I was like, at the time, it was just me and my girl. You know, I didn't have no kids. I didn't have much of a responsibility besides my Camaro and any other liabilities that I had at the time. So I was like, you know what? Let me do it. So I went out there to the oil fields, and that's how I transitioned from concrete to oil fields. I went out there to the oil fields probably like early 2018 and started working in the oil fields. It was a 7-hour drive to get there. It was in Pecos, Texas.
Where's that at?
That's over there right under New Mexico, probably like right on top of El Paso. So right on the edge of Texas.
Wow.
On the west side. So then it was a 7-hour drive there. Believe it or not, I was driving my Camaro out there at the time.
Bro, do you still have this Camaro?
No. So I'll get into that in just a second because, thankfully, unfortunately, but fortunately, this is how I transitioned to entrepreneurship in my ATM business.
Talk about it.
And this is the first time I've ever talked. I didn't even talk about this on the Fresh and Fit podcast. But so after I went to the oil fields, I was working there for a decent amount of time. And I had two life-changing experiences that caused me to like rethink my life and have a, come back to Dallas ultimately, right? One of them was I was working out there in the oil fields, and out there, lack of sleep, you hardly rest. I mean, you were working nonstop. My longest day of work out there was like 21 hours. 21 hours, and there's 24 hours in a day, right? So you'll wake up at 3 a.m, start heading out to the rig. You won't be back till like 12 sometimes. Minimum that we're working out there was 14, 15, 16 to 17 hours a day was a regular out there for us. So we're working nonstop. And at the time I was young, so I was able to kind of handle the handle the hours. But one time, like I was just super tired.
Right.
It was probably like 2 or 3 in the morning. We're going from Pecos, Texas to New Mexico, which was probably like a 2 to 4 hour drive. I can't really remember. It was like a long time ago, but it was a long drive, right? And out there's a road, and you guys can look it up, right? It's called 285. It's a two-way road. So it's driving north, south, or north and south, right? So it's two ways. So in that road, there's a lot of fatalities. A lot of people tend to fall asleep on the road. They'll lose control. They'll get off the road, or they'll collide head to head, like head-on crashes. So one of these days, man, I was driving to the rig, and out of nowhere, I start feeling like, obviously I fall asleep behind the wheel. I start feeling like a real bumpy ride. So then the second that I open my eyes, I'm like on the side of the road on the grass, like driving straight to a light post. So my initial reaction was like swerve back onto the road. So the second that I swerved back onto the road, I like lost control and I swerved onto the upcoming traffic. Now, thankfully, there was no vehicle coming on the other side of the road, because if there was, I wouldn't be here telling you guys this story. Right. But that was one of the moments where I realized, like, this is not worth me sacrificing, my time with family. I missed birthdays. I miss New Year's. I miss Christmas, being out there, because we're working for 10 days. It's not like I was driving 7 hours back and forth every day. So I was working out there for 10 days, and I was like, this is not worth, being away from the family. Right. So that was one experience that I had. And then my second one was when my girlfriend tells me we're having a baby girl, this was early 2019.
Okay.
Early 2019, she tells me like, hey, we're having a baby girl. So then I'm like, you know what? This is it. I have to come back home.
Yeah.
So, I decided that, I'm going to work until my baby girl arrives. And once she comes into this world, that's when I'm going to go ahead and go back home. So I continued to work for those 9 months. Once, it was the due date, I was like, all right, I gotta go. So I left, but I didn't put in my 2-week notice. I just left. And whenever I finally got to, because my intentions were to go, be there with my girlfriend, my new baby girl. And once I'm home with them for a couple, weeks, go back to the oil fields and continue to freaking make money. So then whenever I finally held my baby girl, I was like, you know what? All those kind of scenarios started to play out, because I've experienced a lot. And I mean, I can go on and on with stories of people who were out there in the oil fields, and, coworkers who lost their life, and coworkers who got into bad accidents, were paralyzed because of the crazy intensive work out there. Right. But once I started to kind of play all those scenarios in my head, I was like, you know what? I can't continue to do this. So I left. Called my boss. I was like, you know what? I'm not coming back. I was like, I'm sorry. I left my boots, my uniform. I left freaking. I had just stocked up like food, maruchanes, all kinds of.
You can have all that.
Exactly. We didn't have grocery stores out there, man. It was just desert.
Yeah.
So I left everything behind, and I was like, I can't come back. Thankfully, my supervisor at the time, he was like, you know what, man, you're a hard worker. We appreciate the help that you've provided for us. So I'm gonna put you down, like, if you put your 2-week notice in. And if you ever decide to come back, we'll take you in with open arms. And always grateful for that. And but I never went back, right? So then,
So I'm curious, man. What sparked your interest in the ATM? Like, were you online doing research?
Yeah. So once I came back, that's whenever I started to look into entrepreneurship. I started to look into, different businesses that I can look into. And me being Mexican, right, with Mexican parents, they were like, why would you leave that job, right? You were making great money. They understood the fact that I had a daughter, but they were like, your dad sacrificed so much time to be able to provide for you. You really gonna leave a well-paying job and potentially set yourself up for failure just because you want to be here every day with the daughter? Like, it's okay to sacrifice. It's okay to be away.
And
right?
In your mind, you're like, yes, that's exactly why I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So then, I was like, you know what? Let me look into something small, because all the limited beliefs from my family, from my friends, just telling me, like, why would you leave a great paying job for you don't even know what you want yet? And at the time, I wanted to do something small, because I was also, and due to the limited beliefs, I was also afraid to invest in general. So I wanted to start off small. I wanted to start off with gumball machines, right? Gumball machines, I mean, they're like $100, $200.
But where did you even get the idea for it? You said you wanted to start small, but I'm curious, like, why gumball machines? It's just something like just popped in your head. You've seen somebody in the family. Like, what was it?
So it's actually funny. I've out there in the oil fields, you got a bunch of time, whether you're driving. Sometimes I'd be passenger, so I'm driving, to New Mexico for 2-3 hours, and I'm just chilling in the passenger seat. So whenever I would have signal, I would just be scrolling on the internet.
Okay.
And it was literally like a couple minutes. And I was on YouTube most of the time, looking up, just following entrepreneurs, right? Trying to work on my mindset, because from middle school to high school, I always had the entrepreneurship mindset. So I always followed a bunch of guys, like the Grant Cardones, the guy that what's his name? The one that's like, I'm in my garage, with his Lamborghini. What's his name?
Yes, I know who it'll come to me. It'll come to me.
So I will always follow these guys, and they always talked about sacrifice. They always talked about, you gotta be able to double down on yourself, because if you just continue to work for a company, all you're doing is making them money, right? You're not making yourself any money. You're trading your time for money. So that was motivating me to continue to look into different businesses. And scrolling through YouTube, I ran into gumball machines. There was this guy who actually motivated me to do that. I don't know if you know him. His name is Reyes the Entrepreneur.
Okay.
He's a YouTuber, so shout out to him. I actually hit him up when he came to Dallas, so he can do a ride along with me on the ATM business, but he actually did it with someone else. Besides the point, he actually motivated me to do the gumballs. Okay. And then from gumballs, it transitioned on the YouTube feed to vending machines. And shout out to my boy Jaime. He's actually here in the DFW area. I could probably hook you up with him. He's a successful entrepreneur in vending machines.
Okay.
So I then got connected under his videos that he was posting on YouTube and all his content.
Algorithm.
So then I was like, let me look into vending machines. But then after vending machines, ATMs came along. So then I was like trying to see. Yeah, I was like trying to see what was.
It was Ty Lopez, right?
Ty Lopez, exactly. Yeah. So then after I like looked at the gumballs and vending machines and ATMs, I was like, you know what? I think ATMs is what I want to do, because ATMs is as simple as buying the ATM, placing it on location, filling it up with $1,000 to $3,000, and then every time someone goes up to your ATM to pull out some cash, they pay a convenience fee of $3 to $4 depending on the location, and you make $3 to $4 for people to take money out. So
what was, and I love that you broke that down. So out of the three, like, what is the biggest difference? Is it the amount that you can make with ATM machines? Is it, because essentially with all of them, you're going to fill them up at some point.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely break down the ATM business 101 in a second here. But I'm curious, what was your thought process to choose that over the other two?
So the way I looked at it is, number one, gumball machines, I knew it was a smaller investment and also a smaller return. Like I wasn't going to make a couple $100 a month. I was going to make $20, $30 a month, right? So that was one. Vending machines, I knew that you would make a decent return, but you would have to constantly go to Costco, go to Sam's and buy all the product and put it in there.
There's an extra step in there.
Yeah, exactly. And have an initial investment. Not besides the ATM, the vending machine, but also the products. Okay. So then, the way I kind of looked at it was like, if product doesn't sell, it's gonna go to waste. I'm either gonna have to eat it or it's gonna have to go expire. Don't want to eat that, bro. Yeah. So then I was like, what if things don't sell? What if things don't work out? I was like, if I spend $200 on product and I make $100 a month, essentially I'm still down $100, right? So that's what got me from vending machines to ATMs, because with the ATM, you spend $2,500 for the actual machine. You fill it up with $1,000 to $3,000. That $1,000 to $3,000 goes back into my bank account every single time someone withdraws money. So if I put $1,000 in there, someone takes out 20. Those $20 go back into my bank account along with the $3 fee that I make, the profit, and then I just recycle those $20 back into the ATM as my profits continue to go throughout the month. So that just sounded like a much more simple idea for me. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't want to throw in like $10,000 into something, because I again, like, had a limited beliefs, right? I was like, what if it doesn't work out? What if this? What if that? So I was like, let me just give it a shot. So this was early 2019. Now, I mean, sorry, early 2020. Late 2019, after my daughter was born in July. Her birthday's next month, by the way. And after she was born, I think it was around August, when I was driving from my girlfriend's house to my house to wash my car, my Camaro. And as I was driving to my house, there was the right lane completely stacked with nothing but trucks. I was driving down the left lane, 30, 40 miles per hour. And off that road, there's a service road that comes into this road to turn onto the next road, right, to the upcoming traffic. So as I was going, there was a car coming. And since there was a bunch of trucks and my Camaro was sitting low, I believe the car didn't see me. So as I was going, out of nowhere, I just looked to my right, and this car's just coming, and boom, he just hits the back passenger side. So then he hits my back passenger side and totals my Camaro. So then at the time, I only owed about $13,000, $14,000 for that car. And after their insurance, came out and looked at the damage and see what was going on, they reported it a total loss. So then their insurance ended up giving me about $24,000 for that car due to the low mileage.
God was like, it's time to get rid of this thing, man.
Yeah, so
it's
then,
time to get rid of this
thing.
Then,
at the time, I was already saving a lot of money from the oil fields. I then invested into a 2007 Toyota Prius. So then I started driving my Prius out there to the oil field. So I left my Camaro back home. It was just sitting there for a couple months while I was working out there. So then my mileage was low. So it was a 2015 Camaro. In 2019, I only had like 50,000 miles on it. So after he hit me and his insurance came to the house, they looked at the car. The adjuster was like, you know what, it's reported a total loss. They were like, we'll either give you $11,000 and you keep the car, or we give you, I think he was like $24,000 and we take the car.
Take it.
I was like, take it, take it. I was like, give me the 24,000. Yeah. I paid off the remaining balance and I kept the extra whatever was left over. So then that just added to my savings. So then at the time I had like $20,000, $30,000 saved up. So then I was like, now's the time to like invest. So this was early January of 2020. I was already home working out here. I was a sign installer. I was actually my cousin's apprentice. and we were installing like big old signs on the side of the highways and in front of the like big corporations, McDonald's, Panda Express, all that good stuff. So then as I was driving on, as I was on the passenger side while we were going from site to site, I was looking, this is how I like finally doubled down on the ATM business. I was like, let me do the ATM business. Started looking into how to start it. I paid $800 for a course to learn about the business, which is, I don't regret it because it's all, like you say, a lesson learned from your experience.
But it's all information you can find. You could just it's just the course is just pieced together.
Exactly.
So you don't have to waste your time to find it.
Exactly. Okay. So after I invested into the course, I started my company, my LLC, and I'll kind of walk you through the entire steps on getting started for, anybody in the audience that would like more information on that. But I started my LLC and finally started my ATM business. While I was in the passenger side, man, I was getting my notebook and like just drawing up my logo, see how my logo was going to be. And so let me started the ATM business early 2020.
Wow. So let me ask you this, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good.
Before we get into the steps, now we can start talking about the steps and whatnot. I want to know what a day in the life looks like as somebody that owns an ATM business. Like just I know, you probably have got it to a point where you're only working a couple hours a day, but those couple hours, what does it look like? So you get up, like, are you going to the bank first? What does it look like for people to understand? Like, again, they see an ATM machine, they're like, do you got to move this thing around? Like, when do you come and put stuff in there? So for you, what does that day look like for you?
Yeah. So right now I have over 20 ATMs and here in the DFW area. And my day is a little bit more hectic because I still do vault all of my ATMs.
So you say vault, what does that mean?
Like filling it up with cash, like vaulting it. Like, So like I vault it with cash and ultimately let it sit there for a couple weeks or a month or two, depending on that location and how much money you put in there. But so like my day to day, I mean, right now, I'll go from a beginner's standpoint to like then me with 20 plus, right? So in the beginning, I had maybe like early 2020, I had like 1 or 2 ATMs. So at the time I would go to the bank, withdraw like $5,000-6,000 and I would put 3 in one, 3 in the other, or 2 in one, 4 in the other, depending on the location, right? So that's what I'll do. I'll fill it up with $2,000 to $3,000 each machine. And I would let the ATM ultimately sit there for the next week and a half. So I'll go home and I'll be good.
You're done. You come back in a week and a half. Okay.
Yeah, so then you'll come back in a week and a half and repeat the process.
Okay.
So it's a very semi-passive. Yeah. The reason why I don't say like completely passive is because you're still visiting the bank, you're going to the locations. Sure. But I'd rather have 2-3 ATMs on location making me $200 a month each, and take like 2-3 hours a day to fill them all up and then be off for the rest of the week.
For sure.
Then going to a 9 to 5 and,
that oil rig.
Yeah. Working 8 to 12 hours a day, So
advanced. So what does the advanced day look like now?
So right now, as a, ATM business owner with over 20 ATMs, I'll run to the bank. I won't disclose exactly how much I take out, but it is a lot. I'll go to, I'll create my route, right? So I'll strategically set up my ATMs around the city just so that whenever I'm filling them up, it's very easy and I'm not kind of back and forth. So then I'll start off in the morning. And I kid you not, with 20 ATMs, I don't fill them all 20 at the same time. So every ATM, it differentiates depending on location, how is it doing, the traffic, all that good stuff. So out of the 20, today I'll go fill up maybe 5, right? Tomorrow I'll go fill up 3, and then the next day I'll like on a day where majority of them are running out, that's when I'll fill up maybe 10, right? But it literally takes like 2 minutes to fill up an ATM. It actually takes longer to drive there than to actually fill up the machine. So I'll right now with all 20, I'll fill up 5, 6 at a time until I'm finally done. Then I'm off for the rest of the 2 weeks, a month, right?
Yeah.
I have ATMs where they require me to show up on a weekly basis because there are more busier locations, and some of them that are a bit slower every 2-3 weeks or a month.
So how do you know which one needs to be filled up? Do you have like a spreadsheet that you track everything? Is there like an app or how does that work?
So whenever you get started with your ATM business, you have to work with an ISO, an independent sales organization, or in other words, your processing network, right?
Okay.
They're the company that ultimately facilitate the transactions on your ATM. And think about it like this, like T-Mobile with your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
In order for you to send text, to give calls and things like that, you need the network, T-Mobile,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's similar to with the ATM business.
Good point.
You need that network to be able to facilitate those transactions. So when a customer goes up to the ATM and they take out money, that network takes that money out of the customer's account right then and there, and they put it back inside of your bank account the next day, along with every other transaction that happened throughout that day.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much what it looks like when it comes to setting that up and, you know, getting
so it's
getting or looking at your transaction, because they also give you access to an app. You get an app on your phone where you can look at every single ATM that you have. You'll look at how many transactions each ATM is doing, how much it's done for the month. You'll be able to see everything. You can run reports and all that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so to me, what it sounds like that processor is I just immediately think of e-commerce. So you build a website and you need to accept payment some type of way, right? So there's different payment processors that you can install on the website for them to accept payment when people buy. That's kind of what it is, right?
That's exactly how it works. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very similar to that. The only thing is that with ATMs, it's like one processor only. So you can you could switch it up, but it's recommended not to bounce, you know, back and forth. Whenever you're starting the ATM business, always look for free processing, unlimited processing, and ultimately not being under a contract, because a lot of processing companies, what they'll do is they'll take advantage of beginners. They'll see that you're a beginner in the game, and they'll try to make you sign a contract with them for like 2-3 years, and then they'll charge you processing fees, and that's how they take advantage of you. Like Paul, for example, whenever he started, and this was like way back then, like he started probably like 7 years ago. Paul actually, whenever he started, he signed up with a processing company, and that processing company was charging him processing fees. So then whenever he found out about free processing, in order to break out of that contract, he had to pay $7,000.
Ooh, okay.
And in the long run, he was going to make more than $7,000. So he just took that hit and he paid out to get out of that contract. So
definitely.
Yeah, as a beginner, you always want to look into free and limited processing for your ATMs.
Okay, cool. So let's dive into it. So let's talk about the machines. This is what people are probably curious about. Where do you even get these machines at? I want to know where you can get them at, and the cost, and what type of machines are out there. When I say what type, I don't know if this is something you guys dive into, but I know I'm familiar with like Bitcoin machines. Is that something you guys mess around with? So let's hit on that.
Yeah. So I'm brand new CEO of ATM Together, right? And with ATM Together, not only can we help you out with ATMs, we can help you out with BTMs. And then there's this newest.
What's the second one?
BTMs. Those are the Bitcoin ATMs.
Oh,
so BTMs, ATMs are our traditional cash ATMs.
Yeah.
And then we just we didn't come up with it. We're actually working with a company called Gen Mega, and we're actually the first company here at ATM Together who has released UTMs.
Okay.
Universal Teller Machines. So think about it like this: it's a hybrid between ATMs and BTMs.
Okay.
It's a hybrid of both. So you can get cash from a UTM, and you can also buy and sell crypto. So sooner or later, UTMs, because a lot of people think like, oh my God, like ATMs, they're going to go out of business. You know, no one's going to use cash in the future or whatever, right? So UTMs are hybrid of BTMs and ATMs. They're the manufacturers are adapting with time. So with UTMs, sooner or later, you're going to be able to do bill pay. You're going to be able to cash checks. You're going to be able to, you know, transfer money, all that good stuff, right? So UTMs, we just started releasing it out to the public.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just started helping entrepreneurs all across the United States and even in Canada start with their UTM business. So it's ATMs and BTMs ultimately, you know, put together.
So let's just say somebody, they're trying to do it on their own, right? Where can people go to look? Is it like they just find some on Craigslist, or like is there like a company that sells these ATMs?
Yeah, so as a beginner, I would recommend you to go with an ISO. Now, again, you guys have to be very careful when you're working with an ISO, because an independent sales organization can help you purchase an ATM. They can help you process your ATM. They can help you set up the ATM. But some of them, they'll charge you fees. They'll actually charge you fees to do all that for you. With ATM Together, we walk you through the entire process. And then from here on out, we hook all of our clients with wholesale pricing. We hook all of our clients with free unlimited processing on every single ATM that they decide. And then, of course, you get the mentorship, right? You get to have someone like myself, who's been in the game for over 4.5 years now, walk you through the entire business model and essentially hold your hand throughout the process.
Yeah.
So if you're starting off by yourself, you have to look for an ISO, an independent sales organization, but you also have to find someone who you can really trust. And you know for a fact they won't take advantage of you because you're a beginner, right? So you just have to be careful. I don't want to name drop processors. I don't want to name drop ISOs out there because I don't want people to go in.
Just do your due diligence.
Do your due diligence and just make sure that you're working with the right people. Because I don't want to say go work with these people and then they do you wrong and now you blame me, right?
Right, 100%. Dude, I mean, look, we talk about doing due diligence all the time on this podcast, right? So for people, this will be the last question about machines. What is the price range people can expect to pay for these machines?
Yeah, so as a beginner, I would recommend you to look into a Hyosung Halo 2, which is the machine that I've been using these past 4.5 years.
It's a type of machine?
Yeah, it's a type of machine. It's a Hyosung, or it's a Yosung. It's called a Yosung, but a lot of people pronounce it like Hyosung. But it's a Yosung Halo 2, and that's probably one of the beginner-friendly machines and also affordable. They're about $2,500 for that ATM. Now you also got a Gen Mega G2500. That one is also around the $2,500 range, and that's also a beginner-friendly machine. Those are the two machines that I would recommend beginners to start off with, because with those machines you get 2-year warranty from the manufacturer if you buy new. And that's what I tell every single one of my students. We have over 3,000 students here at ATM Together across the United States and Canada. Every single one of them, we tell them, get a Hyosung or a Gen Mega. Right now, Gen Mega is the most recommended because Hyosung, I'm not going to lie, they've been having a bit of problems with dispensers and things like that. And although you do get warranty, it's a headache just dealing with it.
Yeah.
So right now, we're kind of pushing people to Gen Mega 2500s. And I believe they're even like $100 cheaper too. So those are the two ATMs that we would recommend people or beginners to start off with, because not only are they affordable, they get the job done, and they also have Bitcoin integrations where you can buy and sell Bitcoin on those ATMs as well. So they're not necessarily BTMs or UTMs. ATMs also have that integration where you can sell and buy Bitcoin.
So you said sometimes there's issues with the dispenser. What happens if I go to the ATM machine and it's not spitting the money out? Is there a number I can call? Like, do they call you? How does that work?
Yeah, so whenever a customer goes up to the machine and they'll like have a problem withdrawing cash, a lot of the times these machines are up to date. Like they detect stolen cards, they detect ribbed bills. Like even if a bill has a slight, the slightest cut on it, it'll throw it in a reject bin. It won't give it to the customer.
Yeah.
So if you take out money from an ATM and it doesn't spit anything out, more than likely it did not charge you. Because the ATM knows that it didn't spit out because it had sensors throughout the entire ATM. So it can detect double, like if a bill comes out stuck with one another, it won't spit it out because it notices that it's thicker than a single bill. So the ATM will automatically know. But let's just say that it does charge you and it doesn't give you anything because something else that's actually like physically wrong with the machine. What happens? It'll do what's it called? A reversal where once you get charged, the ATM knows that you were charged, but it didn't throw anything out. Nothing came out of the actual little slot. So then it'll do a reversal where literally in a couple minutes you'll get your money back in your bank account. It'll refund everything back.
Yeah. Side note: who manufactures these machines?
So one of them's Yosung. Yosung is a company that actually here in Irving, Texas.
Oh, so it's an American company.
Yeah. So it's Korean, but it's based out here in Irving, Texas. And then Gen Mega is another one, and I think they are here in Texas as well.
Interesting. Okay, so people got their machines, or they're looking to get their machines. They got this thing, location. How do they find locations? You know, what locations would you recommend? Maybe like 2 or 3 of them. Which ones would you not recommend for people out there?
So I'll put it in a beginner's perspective, right? You're a beginner. You're just now getting started with the ATM business. You don't want to throw a lot of money into like ads, marketing, things like that. Also, as a beginner, you don't want to land certain locations that require a lot of capital, right? So, for example, here are some locations I wouldn't target as a beginner unless you find a partner, right? Tattoo shops, right? Your average tattoo costs $200, $300, $400, right? So more than likely when a customer goes up to that ATM, they're gonna withdraw a lot of money,
For sure.
right? And if you're letting someone take out $300-400 out of your ATM and you're only charging $3 or $4, your ATM is gonna be going through a lot of cash, but you're not gonna be making that much money, right? So then that's one location I wouldn't necessarily go after. Another location I wouldn't go after is, of course, bad areas like, high crime areas, high theft areas, where potentially if you install an ATM, they're either going to vandalize your ATM or it's not going to have a lot of traffic in that business just because of the area, the bad high crime area. No one really visits, whether it's a corner store, a nail salon, or barbershop, right? So those are some of the locations I wouldn't necessarily target as a beginner. Some of the locations I would target would be the obvious, right? Cash only, cash driven businesses. And there still are a lot. I actually just landed a cash only nail salon. I installed it and everything. So there still are cash only businesses. I have cash only businesses currently that I had for the past like 3-4 years. I have one machine, for example, and this is like my gold mine. These are kind of harder to find, but they're still out there, right? It's a cash only restaurant that generates about $2,000 to $3,000 a month, just one ATM. So cash only businesses, right? Those are what I would recommend you to look for. Now, those locations, they have a lot of traffic with cash, but it's less of a withdrawal limit. So people aren't showing up to the restaurant and pulling out $300-400. They're pulling out 60, 80, 100. So it's less cash, but more transactions.
Yeah, that makes sense because you're getting, and we'll get into this. You're charging $3.50 per transaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not a percentage? I think I've seen some that charge like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like 1%, 2%.
Yeah, there are some ATMs that charge a percentage, but that just depends on the location.
Okay.
So if it's a tattoo shop, for example, sometimes they'll do a fit fee or a percentage.
Yeah.
Percentage for a tattoo shop would be probably the best way to go.
Right.
But some business owners, they just don't want percentage. They want you to charge a certain rate.
Yeah.
And then that's when, as a beginner, it wouldn't benefit you to install at a tattoo shop.
So how do you know if these spots are cash only? Are you calling? Are you walking in and like poking around? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So what I would do whenever I started, I would go either door to door, old school, right? I'll go door to door and I'll start just walking into different businesses, trying to get a hold of the manager or the business owner, but eventually get to the business owner because they're always a decision maker. And trying to figure out whether they are cash only. Sometimes I already know the businesses are cash only due to my previous like visit with them or research, or like friends and family who are like, hey, this business is cash only, go check them out. Right? Referrals. That's very important. Referrals are how I landed a lot of locations throughout my experience. But just research, ultimately going around your area, going on Yelp, right? Leveraging just social media in general, and creating that list of different businesses. Or the old school way, door to door. If you happen to have a couple businesses that just go visit them and let them know. I mean, this is how I started, right? I would walk in, I'd be like, hey, I'm a local ATM business owner in the area.
Yeah.
I have another barbershop just like yours with X amount of barbers who we installed an ATM completely for free. And we went from helping them pay, well, this is if they're paying credit card fees, because businesses pay credit card fees if they accept cards. We helped them from paying $1,000 a month in credit card fees to $500 a month just by installing a free ATM. Once you let businesses know that you can provide them value and save them money or make them money, they're going to be like, well, let's just give it a shot.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one way on how I was able to prospect locations and land them as well. Now, if you're dealing with a cash only business, that business owner is going to sell themselves, right? Because they have customers who walk in, who have card, they see a cash only sign, they'll walk away. Or the second they get to the register and they're like, oh, we're cash only, they'll walk away. They won't come back, right? So those locations are easier to sell just because they need you. But other locations who accept card but have a lot of traffic or are cash driven, like bars, or just restaurants where they would prefer cash tips, those will also do pretty well.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, on Yelp, if you look up the restaurant, they show like, obviously if they have a bathroom, they show like the different things that are in the restaurant. I think that says like if they have an ATM or not. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so in Yelp, some will actually give you a description of the business.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of pictures of the business inside and everything.
You can kind of look around. Okay.
So if you're someone that doesn't have much time to go door to door and actually like speak to these businesses, in a day, then you could always generate a list by using Yelp, using Facebook Marketplace, or like scrolling on Instagram, in different business pages in your area, and then just jotting down a list of different locations that you want to then visit or give a call to, and then just start knocking them out one by one.
And the good thing about that is, as you start collecting that data and that information, you kind of can figure out an avatar of what your customer looks like. So you can kind of say, okay, usually the mom and pops that are a little bit older, that are not updated with technology, that are in this area, maybe they serve this type of food, they don't have one, you know?
Yeah,
that's my thought.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know.
No, you're completely right. You can not only choose a niche that you want to target, right? Whether it's dispensaries, whether it's restaurants, whether it's barbershops or nail salons. But just based off of your research, you can see which ones would benefit you the most based on, like, for example, a barbershop with 5 or 6 chairs is going to do better than one with 2 to 3 chairs, right? So you would always obviously want to target the one with more barbers in them. So that's kind of how you would look at it when prospecting locations. You always want to look at traffic, number one, right? How many people do they see in a day? And then 2, obviously in an area, if they're in a shopping center, right? You could put a big old ATM sign on their window, like a LED ATM sign. And now people in that shopping center will know that there's an ATM next door. So for example, I have a Caribbean restaurant, and they have like after parties, and it's like a bar toward the end of the night. So they have a poker house next door. And that poker house, they have an ATM. And they're cash only to enter and to play poker, but that ATM runs out of money a lot. So what they'll do is they'll send people to the Caribbean spot to withdraw cash, and now that's just more traffic to my ATM, right? I'm trying to get a hold of that poker spot so I could be like, hey, I could put an ATM in there and not, make sure that it doesn't run out of money like your other guy. But they're kind of hard to get to, and then some of them they're pretty loyal to their people. But hopefully one of these days they get fed up with it, and they give me a call.
So we got machines, we got locations. We kind of spoke about making money from the machines. You said that pretty much all your machines, you take out $3.50 per transaction. Is that like industry average or something like that? Or is that just a good sweet spot?
Yeah, $3.50 is the average fee in the United States. So all across the US, $3.50 is your average. California, maybe you'll see $4. In higher areas, you'll see higher volumes. For example, majority of my ATMs charge $3.50, but I have locations like after hour bars where I charge $5, right? Locations where I know they're gonna withdraw more money and they're open after hours, right? So those I would charge a little bit higher. Mobile events is another type of location, not locations because they're not permanent. They're just literally events that happen throughout the year. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with bandas y trocas. I did bandas y trocas with one of my partners, and we were charging $10 per transaction because people were withdrawing a lot of cash, right? They're there at the event. Not only is the event, like the food vendors are charging like $5 per taco, and bro. Like it's pretty expensive when it comes to the event. So as prices go up in the events,
you got to kind of match.
You got to match it. So if not, people are gonna be taking out $500 and paying $3, right? So it would kind of fall into charging less for more money, right? Essentially. So for bandas y trocas, we were charging like $10 per transaction. That's insane. And Saturday alone, we took a total of 5 ATMs, and 3 of them were my partners, 2 of them were mine. My 2 ATMs just on Saturday for that event, it made $1,000 just in Saturday.
That's crazy.
So I mean, events do very well when it comes to your ATM business. So I highly recommend anybody to go out and prospect like events, right? Bandas y trocas, food festivals. We did a food festival for at the Texas Ranger Stadium. I forget what the name was, but we did that a couple of weeks ago as well. I also took 2 of my ATMs for Saturday and Sunday, and I made a total of $3,000 Saturday and Sunday.
Damn.
So some of the mobile events, they make a lot more than actual permanent locations, because your average ATM generates about $200 a month.
Okay.
And then it goes up or down from there if the location is not very well. And this is why the ATM business is my favorite, one of my favorite businesses, because it's an actual cash flowing asset, tangible business that you can touch, you can move, right? If you place an ATM at a location, let's say a barbershop, and you like what's the word I'm looking for? Like you overestimated that it would do a lot better than what you thought, then what you could do is, if it doesn't do very well, if it's doing below your average transactions that you expect, you could pick that ATM up and move it to another location. And that's why the ATM business by far my favorite, because if you land a bad location, you're not stuck with that location. You can move it into other businesses and potentially generate better income, right?
For sure.
And I've done that multiple times. There's been, over a dozen times where I've installed ATMs and they didn't do well after 30 days, 40 days of building a rapport and seeing if it's ever going to pick up or not. I'll talk to the business owner, and it's in the contract, right? Because you feel you ultimately you sign a contract with the business owner when you build that relationship, you start to work with them. And in your contract, it says if the ATM doesn't perform over our average, transaction amount in 30 days, we have the right to go in and take that ATM out.
So you're giving the business owner a cut as well, right?
Yeah. So, okay. Well, it depends. I have ATMs where I don't pay the business owner nothing, and then
you don't necessarily like start with that.
Yeah, you don't start with that. Yeah, you don't want to walk in and be like, I'll give you 50 cents, right? I did that whenever I started, and I lost a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
And they took advantage of me because they saw that I was a beginner. They saw I was desperate. I wanted to land my first ATM. So my first location was a cash-only cell phone repair store. Whenever he reached out to me on Facebook, because I was posting on Facebook Marketplace, free ATM installations, right? He reached out to me. He was like, hey, so I got a cash-only cell phone repair store. It's over here in Fort Worth, Texas. And whenever I heard cash only, I was like, I got to land this location. So whenever I showed up, I was like, yeah, so I'll give you 75 cents per transaction. I'll charge $3.50. He was like, I don't want 75 cents. He was like, I want $1.25. So I gave him $1. And I was paying, that was a good chunk of my money, because we went from paying, he also was like, I don't want to charge $3.50. I want to charge $3. So I was only making $3. It was like about an hour drive from where I was staying at. So ultimately I was like, it was making decent money, like $200, $250 net profit to me. But at the end of the day, it was an hour drive. I had to visit it more often because it was a cell phone repair store. So the average ticket was like $120. So it was definitely something that a learning experience for me, but something I wish I shouldn't have done. But by just going in there and offering money, go in there, provide value, because at the end of the day, it's a cash only business.
Yeah.
They need you, right? So if you could just show them the value, let them know what it is that you're going to provide, you're going to help them save or make money. They're going to be like, let's do it. Let's install it.
How much does the payment processor charge?
So we offer free unlimited processing. So how
do they make money?
So they make money through interchange. It's called interchange. And pretty much what that is the Amex, Visa, MasterCard, they pay the processing company cents per transaction for allowing ultimately customers to use those cards with the ATMs for facilitating those transactions. So that's how they make money. That's why our processing company or our partner offers free processing to all of our students. Now, there are a lot of processing companies out there who every processing company makes money that way, right? Because it's about their portfolio rather than per transaction, right? Exactly. So the more people they get, the more money they make, and that's how they're able to offer free processing. But there are some processing companies who will see that you're a beginner, and they'll be like, we'll charge you 25 cents, 35 cents per transaction. And now they're trying to make more off of you, because they're like, we give you tech support, we teach you how to program your ATM, we do this, we do that.
Just a bunch of stuff you may not need.
A bunch of warranty and all this, but in all reality, you already get that anyways. You get warranty from the manufacturer, right? You get tech support from Yosung or from Gen Mega. So they just try to sell you things because they know you're a beginner. They just want to take advantage, right? So yeah, with us, we help you out with free unlimited processing on every single ATM. So if you're charging $3.50, $4, we let you keep 100%. We never touch a penny.
So once those transactions at $3.50, that automatically goes to your business bank account, right?
Correct.
Through the payment processor.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just, maybe people out there wondering, do I take that $3.50 out when, I'm exchanging the money? So, okay, so we got machine, location, making money from the machine. Let's just say we can start wrapping this up probably in the next 5 minutes or so. For people that can't necessarily afford a $2,500 machine, do you suggest that they get financing, they use credit? What are your thoughts? Partner?
Yeah. So to get started with the ATM business in general, you would need about $6,000 to $10,000 to get started
for one machine.
Yeah, for one machine.
Yeah.
So 6 being on the lower end if you start by yourself, right?
Okay.
If you buy the ATM for $2,500, you fill it up with about $1,000 to $3,000, and then all the other like miscellaneous expenses, like starting up your LLC, it costs money, right, to set up your company. It ranges from $35 to $500 depending on which state you're in.
Yeah.
And then other, expenses like business cards, websites, things like that, right? So $6,000 on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to invest into like a mentorship where they provide you all the services, wholesale pricing on ATMs, free and limited processing, contracts, just a mentorship in general, then you're looking at a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about it like this. When you invest into a mentor, you're essentially kind of like the Flash Pass in Six Flags, right? You're skipping a line. You're saving yourself 1 to 3 years of experience by doing what someone else already did and avoiding the mistakes that someone else already committed, 100%. Like myself, right? I had a lot of mistakes. I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of time. And now every single one of my students, they've all learned from my experience. And now they're kind of just having a head start. Like it took me about 3 years to get to like 15 ATMs. Mm-hmm. I have a student who started with me like, I want to say like 7 months ago. He already has 14 machines. So it took him like literally like more than half the time to get to the position that I was in 2-3 years. So you took mentorship, so just because again you invest into your mentorship, your network is your net worth, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much
what's preventing you from, you got 20 machines, what's preventing you from scaling to like 40? Are you at a point where like, okay, I'm good with what I have, or like why not double or continue, or maybe that is your plan?
Yeah, so I still am prospecting locations. So now I'm like, back when I started, I was doing all the prospecting, but now I have someone else prospecting locations for me. That way I can focus on my mentorship program, helping people all across the US. And now I kind of delegated that process. So I am still scaling my business. I actually have another 5 ATMs that I just ordered for. I have 3 locations that are hot leads that are waiting for ultimately a yes and a contract signed so that we can get an ATM installed. So I'm still prospecting location. I'm still scaling my business. I'm also getting about 2 UTMs delivered to me. They're the newest machines so that I can start showing people what a UTM is, what a UTM does, and place them on location and teach people about the UTMs, universal teller machines. So I'm still scaling my business, but I delegated that process so that I can focus on my students and helping them out with teaching them about the business, helping them understand, doing one-on-one trainings with them and programming it with them and kind of just helping them succeed, right? Yeah. So I kind of focused on that that part of the business now. It's just teaching people. But ATM business is still going.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure you probably would want to get to a point where maybe you have other people feeling
vaulting your machine.
Yeah, for you, so you don't even got to do that. So
yeah,
I think the last thing I want to hit on is like the whole thing about the cashless society. So as we know, more people are using less cash and they're paying things for more things using their credit card. I don't know the exact percentage, but I think maybe 33% of Americans, they pay for things using their credit card. I think cash was around 13, 14 or something like that. 41% of Americans use absolutely zero purchases using cash. I'm one of those people. You see my wallet is like a little paper thin wallet. What are your thoughts about that? And I know I don't want to like fearmonger people if they're thinking about jumping into this business, nothing like that. But it's something to keep an eye out for. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I believe it's FinCEN. They just passed the it's how can I say it? Like they just pretty much passed the law where every business in the United States has to take cash payment no matter what. They can't deny cash payment. Sure. So that's number one. Number two, you still have a lot of businesses who are cash only. Majority of my portfolio is cash only, right? I was driving down this road the other day and there was a bunch of like taco trucks who are cash only, right? So there's still a lot of mom and pop shops who are cash only, and the reason why they're cash only is because what happens is when businesses accept cards, customers go to once they get the service or products, they go home and then they dispute transactions, especially bars, strip clubs. You know, like high.
So they just want to avoid all that.
So a lot of mom and pop shops, they want to avoid that, and by avoiding is just being cash only, right? And therefore, there still will be a lot of businesses across the United States that take cash. Some businesses, they have problems with their merchant services where Wi-Fi goes down and they can't accept payments. So having an ATM in there is always something great to have. So there's always going to be businesses that are going to accept cash. I mean, you can't walk into a gas station or a corner store and buy a lottery ticket with a card. You have to pay cash, right? So those are reasons on why I feel like the ATM business is still going to be a great business and a growing business for the next couple of years. At least during our lifetime, cash will still be around. Who knows after, you know, after long gone, after we're gone, you know. But as of right now, I continue to scale my business by a lot, right? I landed probably like this year alone, like seven or eight ATMs just this year alone. We're barely halfway through the year, 6 months into the business, so into the year, sorry. So I'm still scaling my business. We have thousands of students throughout the United States and Canada who are still landing locations, whether they're cash only or cash driven locations, who've generated over $200-300 a month, $1,000 a month. So I have a Facebook group. It's called ATM Business for Beginners. I'll shoot you the link and everything, so you can show it to your community. It's a free group. I go on live every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And in that group, not only do I teach people about the ATM business, I have live Q&As and walk people through the basics of the ATM business, but we also post all of our student testimonials from people who started with our program, who just started their ATM business in general and show actual results, right? ATM Together has been around for a long time, 5 years now, and helped over 3,000 people across the United States. And, you know, we wouldn't be in this position right now if we weren't helping people across the United States continue to land you know, locations, whether they're cash only or cash driven, who are still benefiting from an ATM machine.
100%. I love that. Well, look, man, this has been a lot of great information. I mean, that we pretty much broke down how to get started. One question I always ask my guests before we leave is, who is one person that needs to be in the Latin Wealth podcast? The only rule is you have to know this person personally.
So, I mean, I would recommend you guys or I would recommend Paul Alex, who's my mentor. He's a mentor of mine. He also started with the ATM business, multimillionaire now. He just bought a yellow Ferrari. I don't know if you've seen his post. He just bought his yellow Ferrari, and he's super successful. He started off with ATMs as well. He went from law enforcement, and I'll let him tell his story. But he went from law enforcement, a 6-figure paying job in California, to multimillionaire, and it all started with ATMs. He started teaching ATMs. He actually is the founder of ATM Together, and he just got me into the CEO position to take over the company because, of course, you know, he's a workhorse, man. He's like opening businesses left and right. So
we'll definitely make that happen for sure.
Yeah, so I'll definitely let him know to come on down here and give you guys a great interview because man, he has a phenomenal story as well.
Dope. I love it. So let the people, you mentioned the Facebook group. We'll leave that link in the description of everything. Where can people reach out to you, your personal page, talk to the people, let them know?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram. It's the Juan Jeronimo, Juan Jeronimo, TheJuanJeronimo. So that would be my Instagram, as well as you can find me on TikTok, the Juan Jeronimo, the same username, or YouTube, Juan Jeronimo. We just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we're like slowly growing on there. But yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube, the Juan Jeronimo.
And you guys know where to find us at Latin Wealth. If this was valuable to you, please share this episode with one other person that needs to hear this information. It's your boy Chris. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
So, guys.